Marvel Television has finally released its special presentation, The Punisher: One Last Kill, on Disney Plus, and it's officially the most graphic and brutal project in MCU history. Critics and fans agree that it's a hyper-brutal bloodbath that pushes the MCU further than Deadpool or Daredevil ever did. After years of fans wondering if Disney would water down Frank Castle, well, we finally have our answer, and it's gory. So after seeing the special, here's actually my take on it. This is a lean and relentless adrenaline shot that gives fans exactly the unfiltered Frank Castle they've been begging for. It's a major win that feels significantly more focused than the pacing heavy Netflix seasons, 13 episode season of Netflix. I actually liked it way more than the Netflix show because they cut out all of the filler and the fluff and focused simply on telling this very, very dark story. I can definitely understand why people may not have cared for the first part of this special. I mean, it is going over a lot of what you've already seen before in the first two seasons of the Netflix's Punisher, right? It's like, the PTSD storyline. I mean, Netflix kind of really banged it into the ground. It's like they, episode after episode of that season. And because it was so kind of dragged out, I think, the first two seasons, 13 episodes, even during the time in which the show was going, I felt like, they could have cut this down. So to kind of go back a little bit to the well in the first half of this, where you have, a Punisher who's kind of at the end of his rope. He's thinking about ending it all, and he's having these hallucinations, these flashbacks of people who are gone. And so once again, it's kind of going back to the more psychological element of Punisher. And again, your mileage may vary on that. If you feel like you've seen enough of that, then I don't know if that's going to do much for you. But for me, I thought it was effective enough. I thought it was a good enough setup to lead to the far superior second half, in my opinion. You have Frank Castle in this apartment complex, and he's currently being kind of sworn by all of Nucci's kind of goons that she's sent after him to come take him out. And he has to kind of ruthlessly dispatch these criminals in the most brutal way possible, kind of fighting his way up the rooftop. Numerous people are swarming him. He's jumping off the roof. I mean, that whole sequence reminded me very much of The Raid, or something like John Wick, where you're watching this guy just brutally take down all of these kind of men trying to take him out. I mean, it's probably, that entire sequence was like gory. It was violent. It was like, wow. It didn't even feel like I was watching an MCU property at that point. Even in comparison to the first two seasons of Punisher on Netflix or anything in Daredevil, it was like, wow, I was surprised that they went as far as they did in terms of how they were kind of playing this out. But that whole portion was like my favorite part, the second half of this. And for me, that's what kind of had me going, oh, okay, well, yeah, this right here is kind of, selling me on this kind of darker take on the character. But I like the fact that it wasn't just like, a violence for the sake of violence. There was this kind of conflict between, does Frank Castle want to pursue Nucci, or does he want to protect the nearby people in the area? And him kind of deciding between, what does he want? Does he want revenge, or does he want to strive for something better, more important? And I like that whole kind of conflict. I kind of wish that, frankly, there was more of it in the first half, but the second half, I liked the idea of him kind of having to basically decide what he wants to be. What does he want the Punisher to be going forward? Not just like an instrument of revenge, but maybe something more, something in a weird way, something a bit more hopeful, which is kind of the way where the story goes. Now, while I did enjoy the second half and I thought the choreography was great, there was one major issue, and that was the CGI quality. I felt like it dipped during the second act, with some of the visuals being, so bad that it almost reminded me of Xbox 360 graphics. It was that bad. Some of the CGI was like, just terrible. I don't know what happened with that. But other than that, I really did enjoy the second half of this. And I think for me, that's kind of what really won me over for the entire thing. Because I thought, oh, okay, the payoff for this was actually pretty good. But as I said before, the CGI wasn't great. But what do you think? Is this level of ultraviolence exactly what the MCU needs, or did One Last Kill go a step too far for a Disney project? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear you guys' opinion on this show. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you a fan or not? Until then, I'm T-Rex 3000, and I am out.